Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast with me, your coach, Julia Seal, where we explore the puzzle of whole being happiness as professional women in our midlife, how to coach ourselves and live into the best version of ourselves, resilient, creative, and thriving, no matter what. Hello everyone, and welcome. It feels like it's been ages since we were last together. We have quite a few new listeners on the podcast, so welcome to you. We're all about exploring our midlife, digging into whole being happiness, and experimenting with coaching tools as we expand into our best lives, using our midlife difficulties as the path. You might be aware of something I've been involved in recently. The Happy and Healthy in Midlife online summit has just finished. However, it's not too late to access the materials. There's me talking about whole being happiness and another 20 amazing women talking about menopause, gut health, pelvic health, hormones, all about being happy and healthy through and beyond menopause. You can find more details about accessing the summit in this episode's show notes on my website, Happiness-Matters.coach. Now this week, we're back to looking at the essential corner puzzle piece of brain management, the piece I call body as brain. One of these basic skills in managing your brain to create the life you want, your midlife whole being happiness. So, body as brain. It's about the mind-body connection. And yes, believe it or not, your body as your second brain, your body's wisdom, and even your body as your built-in coach. This week, let's unpack the mind-body connection a little more, along with some of the more robust studies that have been done that explore this connection. And then we're going to see how to use these insights to coach ourselves. Now, you'll hear me referring back to past episodes. Don't get overwhelmed by more detail or panic that you've missed something. What's important to know up front is how I present the podcast is very carefully thought through. It's not random. I'm taking you on a self-coaching journey to happiness, step by step. Each series builds on the one before. Each episode builds on what's gone before. However, I know you're a busy professional woman, so I'm not really expecting you to study my podcast. Well, I'd love it, okay? If you did, because it's got all the secrets about whole being happiness in it. But I create each episode to stand alone. We explore a dimension of happiness, and then you can consider it and preferably practice the coaching suggestions using what I've brought into the discussion in your life today or tomorrow. So keep what works for you and discard what doesn't. And I do refer back to past episodes for those of you who get super interested in a topic and want to dive deeper. So the long and short of all of this for our newcomers is enjoy this episode. Use it to explore and deepen your happiness. Do not get overwhelmed, and keep tuning in for lots of coach yourself ideas. Oh, and go to my website for all the show notes, past episode links, additional resources, and free self-coaching tools. Happiness-Matters.coach. Okay, so now let's talk about the mind-body connection. I'm going to start with the mind-body distinction, because that's what most of us from the West know and operate from, possibly without us even realizing it. Here I'm talking about the distinction between dualistic mindset and the holistic mindset. And we're talking about holistic with a W, the whole body mindset. Just like I'm talking whole being happiness, the happiness of our whole being, where everything is included and everything is interconnected. Now, those of us brought up in the West have been heavily influenced by this dualistic mindset that sees the mind and body as separate, two distinct entities, split, divided, and unconnected. And this view was first clearly articulated more than 400 years ago in the 1600s by French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist René Descartes. And Cartesian dualism thinking, the dualistic mindset, took root, shaping so much of our Western culture, including our healthcare systems. So medical doctors working separately from psychologists, or traditional psychology paying no attention to the physical body and its impact on our mental health and happiness, and so on. Now, before we make this wrong and talk about people being cut off from the body down and being completely out of touch with their bodies, let's think about it historically. Back in René Descartes' time and well into the 1800s, we were still learning about the body itself, its actual structure, the organs, and so on. Just think of those early doctors. They were grave robbers, really, many of them, up until the mid-1800s. And they were looking for solid evidence, things they could pull apart and understand and know for definite. We'd be hard pushed to be immunizing the world against COVID-19 without this knowledge. Nowadays, we're so much further in our understanding. We can go deeper into the body now. We can look at it at a micro level, at neurons and how they communicate. We can look at how information travels around our bodies, what hormones actually do, what meditation does to the body. Knowing this detail rather than just guessing it enables us to improve living conditions, improve the quality of life, and save lives, all on a massive scale. So what we're now discovering, and backed up with credible evidence-based research, is that mind and body are profoundly interconnected when it comes to our happiness, our whole being happiness. One of the funniest pieces of research I've come across to illustrate the mind-body connection was the work done at the Cleveland Clinic involving exercising the little finger. I know. One study group imagined they were wiggling their little finger, doing mental contractions. Another group did the same, using their imagination to do contractions of their biceps. And then another group actually did the physical contractions of exercising the finger and biceps. And they all did their exercises for the same amount of time for 12 weeks, mentally or physically. And the result is hilarious. The actual exercises increased their finger strength by 53%. That makes sense. The mental exercises, the ones imagining their exercise, also increased their strength. The visualized finger lifters by 35% and the bicep visualizers by 13%. All without moving. So if you're still in some form of lockdown and barred from the gym, don't worry, like me in South Africa, just think about the muscles you could still be building. But the greatest example that brings the holistic mindset to life is that of the dream mile, the 4-minute mile. Back in the 1950s, running a mile, or 1.6 kilometers, in 4 minutes or less was believed to be impossible, beyond the limits of human physical ability. Until Roger Bannister, a medical student from Oxford University, found the key. In 1954, he broke this record, running the mile in 3 minutes, 59 seconds. Now the world record is 3 minutes, 43 seconds. His training was not more physical training. He believed the key was his mind, and that the impenetrable barrier was not the physical limitation of the human body, but the mind, the belief that it could not be done. And he used visualization to challenge his entrenched beliefs. Since last year's postponed Olympics are now going on in Tokyo, it's fascinating to see how some of the world's athletes have really tapped into the mind-body connection through the anxiety and worries of the COVID-19 pandemic to do even better than they might have done last year. And some have not. We now have about 30 to 40 years of mounting evidence for the role of the mind in disease and healing. There are now even medical schools and centers devoted to this interdisciplinary research field, such as Harvard University's Mind-Body Medical Institute, founded in 1994, that includes behavioral medicine, ideas, belief systems, hopes, and desires, as well as biochemistry, physiology, and anatomy. So much great research here. A few that have made a big difference in my life and my family's life is all the work since the 1980s by Dean Ornish on reversing heart disease through lifestyle changes, Ronald Glass's work on understanding how stress affects the immune system, and all the research inspired by John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Going another step further into deepening this mind-body connection and core to this idea of whole being and interconnection is what I call body as brain. It's one of the pillars, like I said, of my brain management skill for us to develop on our midlife happiness journey, one of those 4-corner jigsaw puzzle pieces. And here are a few tidbits to get you fascinated as we develop this theme of body as brain over the weeks ahead. Well, at a basic level, it's quite obvious. Our body is functioning as part of our brain. They're interconnected and not separate, as we can see from the earlier examples. We can safely say there is no real division between mind and body because of the networks of communication that exist between the brain and our body, between the brain and our neurological, endocrine, and immune systems. And I bring this to life in the recent episodes about our RAS, the reticular activating system in our brain stem. That's episode 2.11 if you're interested. And the body is feeding an enormous amount of information into the brain in order for the brain to sort through, filter, and make decisions on. Here's an example. Our skin is about 20 square feet or 2 meters squared, with 1 million nerve cells detecting pressure and pain every second. It's sending our brain 1 million bits of information every second. Our eyes capture 300 megapixels of visual information every second. They're sending about 10 million bits of data per second to the brain. It's extraordinary. I have also created a coaching tool for you that makes all this theory simple and for you to start using it in your life today. It's called your body's inbuilt red flag warning system. This is episode 2.6, and I highly recommend listening in and seeing how my tool works for you. It's one of my best tools for happiness and for building the connection between your body and mind on purpose, in order to increase your inner confidence, strengthen and speed up your decision-making, and reduce your midlife irritation. In other words, how you can set yourself up with a reliable, intuitive inner guidance system that's already built into you right now, this very moment. Now comes some even more fascinating stuff, which I'm going to touch on today and expand in the next couple of Body as Brain episodes. The first of these is the second brain in our gut. Yes, we really do have another brain. Neurons are the cells found in the brain in our skull and central nervous system that tell our bodies how to behave. They are brain cells. But we have neurons in our gut too, about 100 million of them. Apparently as many as there are in the head of a cat. Okay, to put it into perspective though, there are about 100 billion neurons in the brain in our skull. And all of these gut brain cells are connected to the brain in our skull through nerves in our nervous system, and collectively this is called our enteric nervous system, or our little brain. And it's unique. None of our other internal organs has its very own nervous system that can function independently of the brain or spinal cord. Now don't get me wrong, Our little brain doesn't do a lot of complex thinking. It's not reviewing our month's budget to see if we can afford those shoes or writing that retirement letter to your manager. It's not even composing gut feel poetry. It's really just getting on with the daily grind, involved in digesting our food. The link between our stomach and intestines to our big brain, the brain in our skull, just like our skin and eyes are, is very, very strong. And this is vital for our very survival. Think about it. What's going on in our gut is a matter of life or death. It's all about our nutrition. And so if something is not working properly, our brain really needs to know. Let's be honest, we might not think of the link all that often, but it's pretty obvious when you think about stress and anxiety and an upset stomach. Medical science is very focused on understanding the link, the communication system of the gut-brain axis in detail. Just like those early doctors were when they were chopping up dead corpses to understand how the human body was constructed. And there's new exciting discoveries coming through all the time. I'm going to run through some of them, but let's expand on them in future episodes. Then we can really look at the impact each one has on our midlife happiness. For now, let's open ourselves to the idea, the knowledge, that what we're thinking and feeling and doing is shaped by our brain health. And that's not just the brain in our skull, but also the brain in our digestive system. How our gut impacts our happiness, our thinking skills, our memory, our behavior. It's a mind-blowing thing for sure. And if you're opening up to the idea that you have two brains to use on purpose and intentionally for your midlife happiness, what does this mean for how you're living your life today? What changes might you already make? How might you coach yourself the next time you're stressed or anxious, suffering hot flushes, feeling hopeless or confused? Interesting. Here are some more teasers for you. The vagus nerve is getting a lot of attention these days. It's the biggest nerve connecting your gut and brain. It's like an information superhighway between the big brain and the little brain. It's now considered essential to work with the vagus nerve when addressing psychiatric and inflammatory disorders. And it's now also seen as a building block of human compassion. Let this sink into you. What does this mean? How does this expand your definition of whole-being happiness for you? Serotonin, one of the best-known happiness hormones, is the neurotransmitter that stabilizes our mood, our feelings of well-being, of happiness, and our sleep. Oh, and by the way, there are 4 happiness hormones that I build into my fun happiness habit challenges. And you can find my most recent challenge on the website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's quite fun. Now wait for it. Large portions of serotonin are produced in the gut. 95% of all our serotonin is found in our gut. Actually, it's not even made by us. Our bodies. It's made by the bacteria in our gut. We have trillions, not billions, trillions. So apparently something like 40 trillion bacteria hanging out in our intestines. Think of this. Our entire bodies are about 30 trillion cells. So actually we're more bacteria than women. And this entire system is hard at work for us. It's called our microbiome, and it's coming under close scrutiny as we discover its impact on our body health, our brain health, our behavior, our psychology, and our thinking mind. And again, the question comes to mind. How might you coach yourself the next time you're lying awake restless, feeling down or bloated or nauseous? What might this fascinating link between our mind and bodies mean to your midlife happiness journey on a daily basis? What does this all mean to you for body intelligence or somatic wisdom, for how we understand intuition and gut feel? Now, how to navigate all of this. So much information about the mind-body connection. Where to start? Creating muscle strength with our minds or keeping our microbiome balanced? The easiest way I think about it for myself and my clients is like this. Mind-body, there's a connection and it's flowing both ways. There's a connection going from the mind to the body. How can I use it on purpose and intentionally for creating my own version of whole-being happiness? There's a connection going from the body to the mind. And how can I use it on purpose and intentionally for creating my own version of whole-being happiness? Just thinking of this flow, picturing this flow as you go through your day might be more than enough for you today. If you want to go further with it right now and not wait for the next Body as Brain episode where we go into specifics, on the podcast already there are several free coaching tools on how to get started with this on-purpose and intentional self-coaching flowing both ways. You see, I've got you already. I'm going to post all the links into the show notes for this episode. There's how to use visualizations and how to create the version of you in your future. There's using your red flag system and a way of using yellow happiness flags. There's actually changing your brain's filtering system and so raising your conscious awareness of your other levels of body intelligence. And if you're wanting another self-coaching tip along with all of this, as you're exploring the flow of connection either way, see if you can tell when to listen to your body first and when to listen to your mind first. Because remember that either of them can both help and hinder us. They can support our whole being and can see us getting stuck on the hedonic treadmill. We might be in love with chocolate and sugar every day. We think it's essential to our comfort and how we treat ourselves. In fact, we're addicted to sugar and the dopamine that's released. We're tempted to override feeling sad by telling ourselves to stop wallowing and get busy, when accepting and allowing these feelings to actually run through our bodies is how to truly let them go. We wake up old trauma stored in our brain and body when we decide to make changes in our lives. Yeah, exactly. We allow ourselves to stay stuck in indulgent emotions like procrastination and overwhelm. We let self-judgment thoughts influence how we treat ourselves, what we say to ourselves, allow ourselves to believe and dream, and what we do to our bodies. See what I mean? Can help and hinder us. It's a mind-body teaser. It's a puzzle for sure. When you coach with me, this is one of the areas where we work. We unpuzzle all of this and create your very own version of whole-being happiness, your very own system of working out how to use the mind-body connection. We work out when it's best for you to tap into your body's intelligence and when it's best for you to tap into your brain's intelligence and how both of them work together to create whole-being happiness for you in midlife. So together we harness the power of the mind-body connection and we work out how to bring it all together so all of you, every part of you, including the bacteria, all trillions and trillions of them, is stepping forward into your best life in midlife. So that's it for this week, a little longer than usual. But remember, there's a whole lot for you at Happiness-Matters.coach. Or you can drop me an email or book a meet and greet session so we can talk about coaching with me. May you be happy. May you be free. There is no better time to coach together. Bye for now. Have fun building muscles in your mind and thinking with your stomach.
Thank you for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast, coaching your whole-being happiness in midlife. To join Julia for more of her midlife conversations, subscribe for free to her coaching notes by email and to this podcast. Search for Happiness Matters in Midlife to find us in your favourite podcast player app. Once you're subscribed, both of these will be delivered to your device automatically. To find all of this, click the subscribe menu of our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. And thanks again for listening.